Hello, I'm Dr. Maurie Markman from City of Hope, and I'm delighted to briefly discuss a very interesting topic, one that has not actually generated the amount of interest it might have had to date, but I think we're going to see a lot more of this in the future. And that is a question of asking oncologists what they think about the evolving world of artificial intelligence as it affects cancer care. And the paper I'm referring to is recently published in JAMA Network JAMA Network Open. It's entitled Perspectives of Oncologists on the Ethical Implications of using Artificial Intelligence in Cancer Care. Of course, we've heard commentary from pundits. I've seen people who are inventing these products, academic researchers, often people who are futurists and are telling us about the future. But what about the doctors who are actually going to be involved in the care of patients using these? So this is a very interesting study. It was conducted from November 15, 2022 to July 31st, 2023. I emphasize the dates only because, obviously this is an evolving field and opinions are going to perhaps change very much as new products and concerns and opportunities are introduced. This was a survey of 204 United States based oncologists, emphasized that they came from 37 states. About 2/3 of the doctors were male. About 2/3 were non-Hispanic white. And importantly, in this regard, about half said they had a familiarity at some level with clinical decision models. Very importantly, what these oncologists said in response to a variety of questions. 85% said that AI-based models needed to be explainable by oncologists to be used in clinical care. And the term explainable was defined as the oncologists themselves had to understand how the decisions were being made by the AI tool. This is really critical because a number of the commentators who I've heard have said things like, well, we don't know exactly how they came up with this. It was a very complicated algorithm which we don't understand. 85% of oncologists said that's simply not acceptable. They, that is the oncologists who are going to be using this in clinical care, have to be able to understand it themselves, how this decision was recommended by the tool. About a quarter said, and patients themselves have to be able to understand it. Obviously, this is a complicated area of being able to explain this, understand it. But a quarter said patients need to understand it, but fully 85% said they had to understand it before they'd use it. 81% of the doctors stated that consent by patients was needed to be obtained to be able to use such a tool in decision making. In other words, it wasn't just enough for the doctors to say, well, they were going to use it. 4 out of 5 said patients had to agree. A very interesting question was asked is, what if the doctor's decisions or thought processes and decisions was different than what the AI tool said? A number of options were offered to the doctors at that point, but the most common recommendation was, certainly not the majority, because there were lots of options, but the most common recommendation was that the doctor would present both their opinion, their recommendation, and that of AI, and let the patient make the decision. A very important topic, and obviously we're going to hear much more on that. And finally, the last two comments. One was 91% of the doctors said that in the question of medical legal concerns, which we know for certain will come up, 91% said the primary medical legal responsibility was that of the developers themselves. They were responsible. Added that the doctors should have some responsibility, the hospital should have some responsibility if it was a hospital system, but the major responsibility was the developers. And finally, 3/4 of the doctors said that the doctors themselves should take actions as necessary to do what they could to reduce bias in any of these AI programs. On the other hand, 28% said they didn't have any idea how they would go about doing this. So this is clearly a complex, evolving area, and it's important that the people who are going to be using these tools in the future understand them and their opinions are requested and are given. I thank you for your attention. This is a very interesting article and obviously an incredibly important topic. Thank you.